Hello and welcome to the MBOM podcast, where you will learn to master the business of yoga with guests from around the world who have experienced becoming successful yoga teachers, studio owners, and much more. Now, here's your host, Amanda Kingsmith.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the MBOM podcast. I'm super excited for today's interview. I've got an awesome yogini, yoga teacher, business owner who is based out of the southern US. And Brittney Hiller is my guest today. And I had the pleasure of meeting Brittney at Wigwam Yoga Festival, which happened in Atlanta last spring. And it was really last minute that I got to go, and I signed up for a couple of friends' classes, a really great yoga nidra class, and then I saw in there laughing yoga. And I was like, you know what? I do so much vinyasa flow. I do so much power. I do yin. I'm trained in restorative. I'm trained in prenatal. Why not try something that's totally out of my comfort zone and totally new and something that I've never done before? So I went to Brittney's laughing yoga class and had the most awkward, uncomfortable, fun time of my life. And I immediately jumped on her mailing list, and I've been following along with her for 6 to 8 months now, just seeing what she's up to in her business. And finally, I was so inspired by an email that I just hit reply and was like, I need you to come on my podcast and chat with me about yoga and how you got into laughing yoga and how you've created your awesome business. So I'm super excited to have Brittney on the show today to be talking about exactly that, getting into laughter yoga, creating a business around that, creating a sort of unique yoga business within her community. So without further ado, here's Brittney. All right, I've got Brittney Hiller here with me. Brittney, where are you joining me from today?
I'm joining you from Beaufort, South Carolina.
Okay, I couldn't remember if you were from North Carolina or South Carolina. I knew it was one of the Carolinas, but I couldn't remember which one.
Yeah, good old Beaufort, the happiest seaside town.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast today. I'm really excited to be chatting with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much, Amanda, for having me.
Of course. I was hoping that you could start with telling me briefly about how you first got into yoga.
Sure. Well, it actually started when I was in high school, and my dance teacher at the time, now this is, mid to late 90s that this happened, and she put a VHS tape into the and had us do yoga with a woman who was literally dressed head to toe in spandex. And so it was really fabulous because my very first experience was just as a form of stretching within dance class to open up, and then we close dance the same way. So after my very first Shavasana, I was like, my final relaxation pose, I was like, yes, I want to do this and I want to teach this somehow. And I was a mere 15 years old.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I actually had a similar start to yoga as well, because the first time I ever did it, it was a girl that I danced with as well, and her dad was a yoga teacher, and I'd never met anyone who was a yoga teacher before. I was like, people teach yoga? Isn't that just like stretching?
Exactly. Oh, what we didn't know.
Yeah. And so from like 15-year-old Brittney, how did you progress with yoga and become a teacher?
Yeah, well, from 15-year-old Brittney, I ended up moving a couple of places. My parents were in the military, so we moved back to California, and then I moved back to South Carolina and ended up in Charleston. And when I was in Charleston, I started just going back to the yoga videos and practicing at home. And then when I moved to Beaufort, I ended up getting connected with a yoga teacher at the YMCA that I really enjoyed her classes. And she ended up opening her own studio, and from there, I became her manager. And then as the manager, it was required to become a yoga teacher to continue on. And so she actually gave me a really great opportunity because it was at home. Whereas in my head, I was thinking I was going to be doing yoga teacher training in Hawaii and going away for a whole month and just, doing it all immersion style. And in reality, it just popped up. And it was almost like I was being pushed, like, hey, Brittney, this is what you get to do. You wanted to do it, so here it is, literally showing up in my lap. And so it was pretty fabulous for that opportunity. And it even started, first, I wanted to get on the yoga schedule. And so I started out with laughter yoga training in Atlanta. and then went to kids yoga training because she no longer wanted to teach kids. So I was like, okay, I have these 2 opportunities to be able to put my name on the schedule, which is what I'm wanting to do, and be able to teach. And then eventually evolved into what I call the big people yoga, where I got my 200-hour yoga certification about a year and a half after that.
Wow, that's such an interesting journey into teaching yoga. I feel like I've never heard of anyone starting with laughing yoga and kids yoga before doing like a 200-hour.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite an interesting path, to say the least.
Yeah. What was it like for somebody who had practiced yoga, felt intrigued to go into a laughing yoga, like teacher training?
Ooh, well, so that was really interesting because we actually had a beginner's yoga workshop that we were working with together. I was basically her assistant during the whole time. And she ended the class afterwards with a 5-minute laughing meditation. And I thought it was the funniest thing because I had just heard about laughter yoga, just through different styles of yoga you can teach without having to be a teacher type thing. And I was Googling and found that and was like, oh my gosh, it's super close to my house. I can go and do that. My parents live in Atlanta, so that'd be great. And so after we did that, I piped in and said, I'm actually going to go to training for this. So I'll be able to teach this to all of you, in a little while. So it was really great because she was like, yes, that's excellent. Yeah, bring it in here. And what laughter yoga is essentially is it's the form of playing pretend and bringing out childlike playfulness and utilizing laughter as your breath. Because obviously, it is a huge part of our breathing. But it also helps to activate endorphins. It helps to release stress within our body. It's very therapeutic, even though it seems like all you're doing is laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting to hear that you were like niched right off the get-go. You're like, I'm just going to be a laughing yoga teacher.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah, I know. And I'm like, oh, it's so natural because I laugh all the time anyway. So I was like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I mean, that's how I first found out about you. You taught at Wigwam Festival in Atlanta last year. And I signed up for laughter yoga just because I was like, this is not something I've never done before. It's something that's so outside of my comfort zone because as much as we love to laugh, we don't like to just like throw our laughter out there if it doesn't feel like a situation where we should be laughing.
Right, exactly. It's like, is this okay?
Yeah. Is it okay to be laughing right now? And yeah, I was so, I loved how your class was like, you just seemed so natural in front of people being like, okay, we're going to just force a laugh now. And I was like, yes, this is so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And thinking about how, coming into the yoga world as a teacher and then starting this podcast on the business of yoga, I was like, wow, what a great way to make yourself stand out in a market.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so you took, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say just by doing something off the charts, something unique. And that's definitely one way of putting yourself out into the market.
Yeah. Did you find that right off the get-go, people contacted you to teach laughing yoga because you were sort of this unique teacher?
I actually did not. I had to do a lot of work. And so basically what happened was when I first got my training, I was like right on the schedule. And then of course I was undercutting myself because I was brand new. So I thought, oh, I'll give it away. And evidently the more you give something away, people don't seem to show up. It's very interesting. And so I had about 2 or 3 clients that would come in on pretty regularly, which was nice. But it got to the point that I only had like 1 client each time they showed up. So I had this really awesome opportunity to be able to teach one-on-one laughter yoga, which helped me develop more into my own, develop my voice, but also to really assist the person who was in front of me. So that gave me a whole new realm of a part of my business that I feel that's really important is that one-on-one connection with each client, regardless of how many people are in the room.
Yeah, I love that. It's something that very few people are kind of taught in these like big 200-hour trainings is how to work one-on-one with people and with the body and with, meditation or laughing yoga, whatever you're teaching them. And then that's really such a huge way to grow your business and to grow yourself as a yoga teacher.
Yeah. Yeah, it was impactful, I really felt, especially because eventually after my yoga teacher training, there became this kind of like air in the studio that if you had under 5 people in your class, that either you weren't doing well or, I would just notice in other teachers, they would begin to get saddened or upset or just like, oh, I only had this many people. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You have that many people. Like, you can be for those people. How awesome is that? And it wasn't until I was forcefully let go gently out of the yoga studio that I started traveling on my own and teaching my own yoga, that I realized how important it was just that one person is showing up, how grateful I was to each person and still am for their taking their time to come out and help their body. And it's not about the yoga teacher. It's really about the clients and students in front of you, because they're giving you their time and their time is precious and they're choosing to spend it with you. And so it was like I learned really early on in my teacher training just how impactful that was to be able to be the person that they're choosing to spend their time with. It's pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I like the idea of thinking about your classes that way. Like instead of wanting to pack your room full and not feeling grateful that 1 or 3 or 5 people showed up, it's like, okay, I'm showing up for these people regardless of how many are in the room. And it's sometimes even harder to teach to a smaller group of people because you really have to give one-on-one attention instead of just kind of wandering around the room, adjusting, as you see fit.
Yeah, exactly. And that can be hard for some teachers because they're being seen. And isn't that the whole point of being a yoga teacher? You're being seen.
It's interesting because people sometimes just don't think about that. They kind of like turn it into something else in their heads and then they're like, oh no, they're watching me. And it's like, they've been watching you the whole time.
Exactly. You're kind of at the front of the room right now.
You're the only one talking for the entire hour.
Exactly. And people don't realize how much work that is sometimes. No, oh man.
They really don't. It's something that I've talked about with so many of my yoga teacher friends where people are like, you have the best job ever. And it's like, it's kind of exhausting.
Exactly. It's public speaking for hours on end, basically.
Totally. Still best job ever, but yeah, not as relaxing as people seem to think it is.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And so going back to when you were let go from this place where you'd been teaching, what did it look like in terms of going from sort of this employee at the yoga studio to growing a business on your own?
Oh man. To me, it looked fun because I have been in front of a computer since kindergarten. So it was like, okay, I'll build a website, I'll have a Facebook group page, I'll do all of these things. But then when it came down to the boiling point of actually having people show up for class, that was really difficult. And I was holding classes donation based. I still do that to this day, where they are pay what you want classes. People come in, drop money in a bucket. They're finally, now I've been in, this is my 4th year, going on to my 4th year of doing this on my own. And they are finally getting it like, oh yeah, okay. So Brittney's going to have the bucket there. I just drop my cash. It's all good. There's nothing wrong with that. And, before it was, I would have questions of like, well, how much do I put in? Well, is that okay? Well, are you going to be okay? And it was just this very interesting conversation that would begin. And I actually learned the gifticism. I always say it wrong, but a gifticism from a dear friend of mine who, he began that way too with massage and yoga. Is he would start when he first moved to South Carolina, or to Hilton Head, I should say. He began just offering pay what you want services. And he even went so far as to open a smoothie bar where it's pay what you want services. And it was so fascinating because people would come in and there's no prices. And so he's like, yeah, there's no prices. It's just about the conversation. How are you doing today? Let's chat. And people are just dumbfounded. Like, what do you mean there's no prices? Well, you get to put down however much you want to put down. Isn't that fascinating? You get to choose. That's so wild.
Oh, that's so awesome. Do you find that people do donate, or do you still get like the people who are just like, no, it's free?
Oh God, no. I get people who donate. Yeah. It's really an interesting perspective because I don't think I've ever had, maybe one or two. And I don't know, because honestly, people just drop the money in the bucket and leave. Sometimes they'll give it straight to me, but I walk out with cash and that's all that I see. It's not a matter of that person gave this much, that person gave this much. It's a very eye-opening experience, because I feel that for me, it helps me. Again, I'm not looking at my clients in a different way of like, oh, they spend this much money or they don't. I look at them as themselves, as like, what can I help you with today? How can we make you feel better? And what is it that I can do to, to help emphasize the good feelings in your life? And sometimes money can be, a crutch for people to be like, oh, well, I don't have, so I won't go, type of a thing. And so that's kind of what I want to do. I want to shake the system of that and allow people to come in and be like, hey, I can still try yoga even if I only have $1.
Yeah.
And she's not going to care. So, and that's really kind of my MO. And my husband doesn't get it. He's still learning, but
that's so funny. Yeah. It's something that I've talked about with a number of different yoga teachers on the podcast. And I think there's no real like right answer. I think it's figuring out, does donation classes work for you, or does teaching for free work for you and having something on the side and yoga just be this thing that you give because that's what you want to do? Or do you make it like full on career yoga and you charge certain amounts, or you work for yoga studios that do that? And there is really no like one way to do it. It's just figuring out what's going to make you feel the best as a teacher, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I personally feel, I believe that, money is, somebody once beautifully told me, money is green energy, right? So it's another form of an energetic exchange. So for example, as a massage therapist as well, when I trade with another massage therapist, they give back by giving me a massage. So we're just exchanging energies together. So what I see it as is when I offer these donation-based classes or pay what you want classes, people come in, and when they don't understand, if they're new, then I'll end the class with, well, I have given you my energy today. Please feel free to leave your energy today with us. We have a kajarma, which is a karma jar where you may place whatever you want in there. And I've had people leave, just like small gifts of maybe like lip gloss or something, or cash. And so it's just a form of whatever they can give. And I've had really beautiful gifts from that experience as well, because people want to give. They really do, because they want to have that feeling of the exchange. Otherwise, it just hasn't ended yet. So that's why I feel that it's important to teach people, like, this is what we're doing. It really is a matter of exchanging. That's why we exchange in dollars, because it's a form of giving. So.
Yeah, definitely. I really love that idea of thinking about it like that. I've struggled a lot with the idea of donation-based classes over my time as a teacher. Because I lived in a place that was really oversaturated with yoga teachers. So when you're a newer yoga teacher, you end up taking these sort of like free gigs or donation-based gigs. And there's a lot of transient people in the town. So sometimes they just come and they don't give anything, or they give I had somebody one time give 10 dimes. And I was like,
oh,
I don't know if I need your 10 dimes. You could just come to class. And I struggled between the just wanting to give this gift of yoga to people and wanting to make a sustainable living so that I could continue feeding myself.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And ultimately, if our cup doesn't runneth over, then it's unfortunate, how can we give when we're empty, and it's difficult to do that. So we definitely have to think about ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. How do you balance that with doing donation classes?
I'm very grateful for my clients, because they give and they give very nicely. Like, I have been, since doing this, I have made each class, I make more money than if I was working at a yoga studio here in town. And so my hour is totally worth it each time. It's worth it anyway, but it's just amazing because they take care of me. And I have an average of, I would say, 4 to 5 people that come in every time I teach. And so it's really a fascinating experience. Each time that I've began this, it's been abundant.
Yeah. Cool. That's really awesome to hear. Yeah, I'm thinking about it over my head. I'm like, I wonder if it's the location, or it sounds like it's almost just the way that you present it to people. Like, as in, you know, here's what I'm giving to you. And if you can give something back to me, like, I would appreciate it type thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no requirement of like, hey, this class costs $19. You have to give me $19 in order to participate today.
Exactly. Because then with that, you create a conclusion. And so people are just like, well, I can't do that because I don't have that today. And so what this opens up is the realm of possibility, because it's like, well, it's up to you. What do you want to afford? And if you can't afford anything today, you know, then come next week and I'll see you then. And as well as get your yoga fix on twice. So it works out. It's an awesome thing that I really don't know how to explain, except for the fact that people want to give. I know I want to give. I want to support the people that I enjoy receiving from. So what better way than just, you know, giving back. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember there was a guy that I did couch surfing with one time, and he's like, hey, you should come to yoga in the morning. It's free. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird that there's a free class. So I was like, yeah, send me the link and I'll look at it. And then I pulled it up and I was like, oh, it's by donation. And it was so interesting to me how he had just like decided that this by donation class was free in his mind. And I was like, it's not free though. It's by donation. Like, it's not a free yoga class. It can be a free yoga class if you want it to, but if you're going consistently, do you not want to give something to the teacher that's like giving their like creative energy to you?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, it is about you're right. It is about how I guess I structured it in terms of explaining it to others, because there is that realm of that don't understand. Like, well, free is free. Free means nothing. So I can come and not give anything. Whereas when you say that this is what I've done, and so, you know, I ask that if you'd like to give, you have the option, and here is the jar.
Yeah, that's amazing. I like to think about, I always think about like my entrepreneurship karma. I'm like, okay, I'm going to like give to this person's Kickstarter campaign, or I'm going to share this on Facebook because this person's doing something cool, or I'm going to give a little bit on Patreon as much as I can. And I'm like, okay, it's my entrepreneurship karma. It's like coming back around for me.
Nice. Yeah, I like that.
I'm just like, I have to give a little bit to give back. You can't just be selfish and hoard all your money around.
Right, exactly. And it's like, lo and behold, the people who are hoarding and keeping aren't really obtaining anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, it's hard to receive with a closed fist.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to think about that. And so do you teach laughing yoga to all of your clients? Like, is that sort of what you specialize in when you teach people?
I actually don't. I teach it in the realm of conferences, conventions, and opening up women's retreats. I actually have a couple of gigs coming up, as we did at Wigwam. And so I use it as a way to break the ice in different conferences and summits and things. And I use it also with the kids that I teach. But I haven't used it with my I have a regular chair yoga class that I teach. So I have people who come in and who have injuries or who just want a different way and a different approach to yoga. And so we utilize a chair. So that's another unique aspect that I have brought to the table in this location, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like you've done a really great job in differentiating yourself from like the average, you know, vinyasa flow yoga teacher.
Yeah. I was actually trained in Baron Baptiste, inspired Baptiste yoga. So, you know, that's hot yoga flow.
Yeah.
And then also have a hatha background, and with my kids yoga training, that was a teeny bit of Kundalini. So it's a large spectrum that I'm working from, with different, I guess you can say, with a different mentality in each form of yoga too. So I look at it in a holistic way as opposed to a niche way. So when I teach chair yoga, for example, I utilize more of the hatha, but also, to me, the vibrancy that I learned in Inspired Baptiste, and the ability to talk with people and be my true self, which is really cool. And also just the laughing, I just laugh anyway, so people are laughing too, you know, kind of just incorporate some jokes sometimes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's cool to have like a background in, like Hatha, Baptiste yoga, vinyasa, whatever it is, Ashtanga, and then to kind of take that and look at what that is and then see how you can use that in the environment that you're in, but then pull from like all your different backgrounds and find something that just really resonates with you and with your students.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it very, it allows me to just be myself, which is great.
Yeah. I think that that's what makes a good yoga teacher. There's somebody that I had on the podcast who is like, we don't need more of other yoga teachers. Like, Sean Korn is amazing, but we don't need more Sean Korns. Like we need more of just who you are. And I really love that. I think that that's such an important lesson, especially for new yoga teachers to remember.
Yeah, definitely. Because I'll tell you, honestly, when I first started going out on my own and teaching, I did what I'm sure every yoga teacher does. Went on Instagram, started looking at, well, what did this person do to become where they are now? How can I replicate that? And it got to a point where I even went so far as I emailed Catherine Budig and was like, okay, what did you do to become who you are? How did you get started? And she joyfully sent me to an interview that she had, where it discussed, I went out and I got a photographer, I went and did workshops around every single place I could think of. And so I started doing that. Like I was hooked up with a really good friend of mine, her husband's a photographer, and he took amazing pictures. And then I went and started holding laughter yoga workshops in places, but it got to a place where my husband's like, Brittney, you're not bringing any money in and you're traveling a lot. I was going to Charleston and I was going to Hilton Head, and they're not very far, but it's far enough when you're not bringing any money back with you. So, basically I was driving about an hour and a half away and, from my house. And so he was like, okay, this is great and everything, and I appreciate what you're trying to do, but maybe you should stick to the area around you first, gain your students and clientele then, and then you can start to branch out and see where it goes. But I was just getting disheartened because I kept tuning in on those people who have had 10 years behind them, in building their business. And here I was, year 1, year 2, and I'm like, I'm not doing anything.
Do you think if there's somebody listening who's kind of in that realm of teaching, who's like, oh my gosh, that's me, like, would you advise them to just be patient and kind of focus in on their community?
Yes, I would definitely advise be patient. Definitely focus in on your community. But not only that, understand your powerful gifts that you have that nobody else has, because that's what happened was when I finally tuned in and tapped into what I have, what is me, then honestly, people who I wanted to attract in my life began to show up. I'm working with now the students that I love working with. I want to see them every single day. And if I don't, I get sad. It's like every time I teach, I'm so elated that I get to go and hang out with them. It's like hanging out with good friends, as opposed to just, I'm going to go teach a swath of people and I don't care who shows up, but as long as I have 100 people on the mats, because I know I'm getting paid, or whatever the background may be in terms of the idea, it's totally different when you're working with people you thoroughly enjoy working with. And that's what I'm grateful for, is that I finally got to that place where I'm working with all the people that I want to work with, and I'll of course accept more people in, but I'm attracting the people that I thoroughly enjoy being around, as opposed to just having people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you kind of touched on this, but I'm just going to, I guess, kind of confirm it with a question. But so you're looking to expand your brand a little bit, but not in terms of like just blowing it up to the point where you have no idea who's coming in the room type thing. Is that kind of what you were getting at? Yeah.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah, of course, I'm always open for expansion. Love expanding, love being able to inspire and touch others. And that's my key, is being an inspirational yogini. Like, that's what I want to be. I want to inspire other people to get out of their idea that life is difficult, that their work sucks, that there's no other way in this world to live, but with that structured, you got to have this, and this, or else you're not happy. That's what my goal is to get people out of that mentality and to realize their own unique personal power and opportunity to be calm and live with their bliss.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
And how do you bring that same sort of element to teaching children?
Oh my gosh, it's so fun. I teach at 2 different preschools. So locally here, that I have had the opportunity and joy to teach for 5 years now. Yeah. And, so they're 1 through 4-year-olds that I teach. Yeah. So it's at preschool. And it's so fascinating because I get to see, especially the teachers, they're like, wow, that child's 1 year old, not even 1 year old yet. And here you are having it do down dog, and it's, and they're paying attention. And so what I do is I incorporate with the kids singing, which gets them to listen regardless of whatever you're saying. You could literally just sing about, the sky is beautiful, whatever. And they tune in. And so I utilize singing. We utilize a lot of imagination and play. So we pretend to be animals, and yoga is great because most of the poses represent animals anyway. So that's really cool. And I bring in with them just my own personal imaginative play. So it's like I never have to grow up. I get to be a kid the entire time teaching them. And I think that part of me plays into teaching my adult clients as well. Because my mentality is we're all kids, right? I think I said that maybe at Wigwam. It's like, we're all kids. We all get to laugh.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah. It's like, go back to that 5-year-old self of yours and bring it back in. And that's what I do is I tap into that. And I talk to the kids like they're people, because they are, it's like sometimes I can see the difference. Sometimes when people chat with children, they chat with them like they're little doggies. And, and it's like, they're more intuitive than you think, and they can read through, which is what was beautiful. I learned this in my yoga teacher training for kids, was that kids, they are intuitive and they can read through your crap. So if you come in with a bad attitude, but you're trying to pretend to be nice, they'll know that you're having a bad day and they'll play on that. And you can only hold your cool for so long.
Yeah, kids are so intelligent. People do not give children enough credit. And I know I've definitely been guilty for like the child, sort of like treating a child a little bit like an animal, where your voice goes up a couple notches and you like dumb down your language a little bit.
Yes.
But in the last couple of years, I've really realized that, kids are human beings. Not that I didn't know that before, but really treating them as if they were equal to you or I, because they are.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm guilty of that as well, especially when I first got started in it. And it was so funny because I'm the oldest of 5 girls, and my youngest sister today is 11. So I've been around babies since I was 14.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I think that helped a lot too, in being able to have a conversation with them normally. But I have definitely had those opportunities, especially when I was brand new at it and seeing brand new kids that I've never seen before. It's like, oh, hey, how are you today? What's new? But I've gotten to the point of, okay, I'm going to go in and like, these guys are my friends. So I'm like, hey guys, how's it going this weekend?
What are you guys doing after school?
That's right. And I asked that. They're so cute. I'm going to my friend's house. I'm going over.
That's so
my
awesome.
mom is taking me. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And for people who might want to get into teaching children's yoga or teaching yoga to kids, do you think a training is definitely something that you would recommend?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Because one, they give you, and I had Shakta Kirkalsa with Radiant Child's Yoga, who I would definitely recommend. She's been doing this for 30 years now, and she, opened up the opportunity to, she's just a great woman. But what she did was she taught us as if we were 5 years old, right? So we were all the teachers being trained, but she taught to us as if we were the kids. So we actually had this opportunity where we role played and got to pretend like we were 5. And it was so funny because what we all pretended to do as a 5-year-old is not what the 5-year-olds do.
Like, what did you guys do?
Like we were acting out, or we were, just like nitpicking with each other and pretending like we don't actually pay attention to our teacher. And like the 5-year-olds do that. Like they'll pay attention to their teacher. It's really amazing. We'll have maybe like 1 or 2 that it just has a wire hair that day. And they're like, wee, I'm excited and I gotta, dance in the middle. But other than that, they really pay attention. And it's so fascinating because every time I teach, a play shop, which is what I've created to bring into schools as well as, libraries and things, they come in and their parents are just blown away. Like, wow, how did you get my child to sit for that long and actually like pay attention to you? And it's like, well, 1, I'm dressed in a tutu, and 2, I sing to your kids.
I love that. It's all about the tutu.
That's right. It's like princess, magical.
It's so funny. That just made me think of a yoga studio that I love back home in Canada, and the studio owner's daughter is like consistently in a tutu. She's about 4 going on 5 this year, and like she gets to dress herself and she always wears a rainbow tutu.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, how often do we get to wear tutus as adults?
Not very often. That's why I'm like, yes, please book me for a little yoga play shop. I want to wear my tutu.
What was the reaction from your friends and family and your husband and stuff when you started teaching yoga to kids and laughing yoga and that sort of thing?
Oh, goodness. Well, laughter yoga, it was really funny because I went to Atlanta for that. And so my parents lived there in Marietta. And right after my training, it was a weekend long workshop. Right after my training, I started to try to teach it to my sisters. It was cute because my sister Sophia, I think, was about 7 at the time, 7, 8. And so she was like, yeah, this is kind of okay. I mean, like kind of in that in between of like, should I laugh? Should I not? Brittney, what did you do? Crazy. And then my sister Bridget, who was 4 or 5 at the time, she really got it and she was all about it. Then my sister Casey, who's the older one, I think she was like 15. She was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And my parents are like, Brittney, this is great. This is perfect for you. My mom especially, she's always my biggest fan and I love her to death. And she's just like, this is perfect for you because you laugh anyways, like this is just your personality. I'm like, I know, I can't wait to go teach people.
That's so awesome. I love hearing about the different age groups of your sisters and their responses because I feel like that's so typical of like when you're really young, you have like no ego that's telling you, oh, I might look silly doing this. And then you get kind of older and society starts to tell you, I don't know if I should do this, but you're still like young enough that you know it's fun. And then you're a teenager and you're like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, where did you get shut off? Oh gosh. And teaching teens, I absolutely love because I'll just tell you real quick this one situation. I had a workshop where I got to go teach kids of National Guard parents. And so I guess their parents were overseas, and so they had this big summit for them. And so I taught a infusion of laughter yoga, meditation, and then hatha or acro yoga and regular yoga to them. And so it was a 2-hour workshop. And what happened was I remember they come in and they're on the yoga mats and I'm like, okay, for those of my friends in here who have socks on, if you'd like to just take them off because you're going to slip on your mat. And so they're like, ew, feet, ew, I don't want to do that. and so I'm like, it's okay. Your feet are your feet. There's nothing gross about your feet. So then they take their socks off and then we get to the poses where we bend over and, just like, let me see. Yeah, like Baddha Konasana, for example, where you take the soles of your feet together and you bring your heels in close towards your groin. And they were just obsessed with their feet at that time. And I was like, why are you guys trying to get so far down to your feet? I thought you didn't like your feet. I thought your feet were gross. And they're just like, what? It was just really cute.
That's so funny. Yeah, the way that the teenage brain works is, I mean, it's beyond me.
Yeah. Like I had that at one time, but still, it's so funny.
Yeah. Anytime I talk to somebody who has like a teenager, I'm like, it's okay. They're just going to do their thing till they're like 22, 23, and then they'll come back around. just
yeah,
let them
exactly.
be. They're just going through a time.
That's right. They might not talk to you for years, but it's okay. They'll come back around and do it.
Yeah, exactly. Cruel, evil teenagers.
Right? No. They need yoga.
No,
for sure.
definitely. Yeah. Seeing yoga turn up in schools more and more is so amazing because I feel like there's just so much like hormones and social stuff and peer pressure and your ego's in the way. And I feel like yoga just kind of is very freeing from all of that as an adult. So I feel like it'd be really helpful for teenagers as well. And just to sit down and breathe when you're so stressed about things that really don't matter.
Yeah, exactly. It helped me a lot in high school, that's for sure. Cause I was a new kid and we had just moved there into my 10th grade year. And that very first year is when we started doing the yoga. And I realized quickly, like, oh, I don't really need to be into all this drama with at least like 3 months of practice, learning that, okay, whatever the gossip is, whatever they're saying, of course I was still a gossip queen, but it wasn't as bad. I guess you could say.
That's
I wasn't
awesome.
as wrapped up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool to hear that had such a positive impact on your life as a teenager.
Yeah.
Cool. And so something that I really liked about you when I first met you is you seem to have such a really good business. And right from the time after the festival, we had this great fun laughing yoga class that was so awkward at first, but then so fun by the end of it and so freeing. And you made a call to, if anyone wants to join my mailing list, you can keep up with what I'm doing. I'll send you a free ebook. And I was like, yes, she's doing it. She's got it. And so I joined your mailing list and I followed along, and your emails are they're hilarious, they're witty, they're inspirational, they're filled with good resources. And so I was just wondering if you could kind of touch on some business lessons that you've learned throughout your career that have kind of helped you along the way.
Yes, definitely. Oh my gosh, thanks so much, Amanda. I'm glad you're really enjoying it. I have learned definitely that, a lot of people say email list, build your email list. So that was my intention in terms of with the festival, was to build my email list. But being able to connect with people, again, is one of my main objectives. And so building the business part of it has really shown me a lot. Just in the sense of it can seem so daunting and so overwhelming. And understanding, though, that when I continue to tap into what my purpose is, that it allows it to be a lot lighter and a lot easier, instead of beating myself up over, oh, I don't have 50,000 people on my list, or, oh, my website isn't completely perfect. It was that opportunity to tap in and say, like, I'm doing, because I know that I'm going to help others, and that's my purpose. So the business really just boils down to me going with the flow. I tune into my website I tune into my website and make some little tweaks here and there. But really, the whole purpose is tuning in and tapping in to my purpose of helping others. So I think that's really helped it a lot.
Yeah, I think that's massive, especially in this social media age where it's so easy to hop on Instagram and immediately feel discouraged because you don't have 100,000 people following you and you can't touch your toes to your head while you're upside down, or, whatever it is. And something that I always try to come back to is that, if that's not what I'm trying to put out there, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's because we can simply get wrapped up in what other people are doing and thinking that's what we have to do because they're doing it and they look like they're working. And that people have come to me and said, wow, what you're doing, that you're really out there. And I'm like, well, I am, but, but I'm also not. Like, it's like, you're on Facebook all the time. I'm like, well, there's an app for that. I'm using Buffer. So really I'm scheduling my posts and I'm not really on all the time. There's little tweaks in the background that help to make it more so that I can have a life and still have the business going at the same time. Yeah,
definitely. Do you have any other resources outside of Buffer that you would recommend for somebody who's like, yes, that's what I need, so I'm not attached to my phone all day?
Yes. Well, I personally love Buffer because what I've done, so it's buffer.com, super simple to use. You go on and you create scheduled posts. And so what I do is I love to hit Instagram with my iPad, and I'll put like a picture or a video using my Instagram, and then my Instagram automatically posts later on to my Facebook page, my business Facebook page. So I don't have to go in and physically do all of that. So I just make sure that my text is the way that I want it. And what Buffer does is it shows it with the full text on your Facebook business page, as opposed to like having half of the text and then you have to click on a link and then see the rest later via Instagram. It shows the whole thing. So I really enjoy that. Another thing is If This Then That. So it's IFTT. Yeah. IFTT.com.
I think it's TTT.
Yeah. I think it is TTT. Yeah. That's a great one too, because that one you create recipes. And so I'll have like an Instagram post, and then that will boost over to Twitter. And then what's great about that is because I have the Twitter will show the whole picture, and it'll show all of the text as well, as opposed to just a link and then you have to click to the location. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it's awesome how you can do all that stuff. Have you found anything that lets you like pre-schedule Instagram posts?
I haven't yet. I heard that Hootsuite does that, but I haven't really looked into it.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I need for sure. Cause I'm over in Asia, and I try to post at times that are good for North America, because most of my listenership, most of my friends are in North America. And I'm like, oh, such inconvenient times. Like, I don't want to be at my phone at like 11 p.m. when everyone's waking up in the morning. So. Right,
exactly. Have you tried If This Then That?
Yeah, I've used If This Then That before. I used it for sending Instagram to Facebook and Instagram to Twitter before. But I should look and see. They're consistently adding more recipes. I'm sure that scheduling Instagram is going to pop up pretty soon, because I'm nearly certain that I'm not the only one who's like, come on, Instagram, let us pre-schedule.
Yeah, exactly. That is the truth. Which is why I think I'm using Instagram as my pre-scheduler, because that one I post at a certain time, because you have to through Instagram, and then it buffers onto everything else.
Yeah, definitely. No, I love that. I think that that's a great way to kind of keep your social media use down, and then to be able to also be efficient with being on all the different platforms without having to spend like an hour scheduling on each platform and that sort of thing. Yeah,
exactly. And then too, when I find that I'm sitting there scheduling, then I'm scrolling, and then it's like, oh, that was supposed to be 2 hours, but it's 4.
Oh man, I'm like, I've got 15 minutes to do this, and like an hour and a half later, I'm like, have I done what I was supposed to do? No.
Yes, exactly. What was I supposed to do again? So there's the beauty part of the business, is it like clarity is key, and also remaining on top of the schedule.
Yes, no, I love that. I want to be mindful of your time. I know you do have to get going. Is there anything else that you want to share with listeners about business, laughing yoga, what you've done in South Carolina and the surrounding area?
Yeah, well, we just recently, about a year and a half ago, created a little laughing yogini book that people can purchase on Amazon. And what it is it's a little book about a girl who journeys into the woods to find her bliss. So it's great for kids to tap into their own personal power and utilizing friends to help them out. And what it teaches them is laughter yoga. So it teaches the ho, ho, ha, ha, ha version of laughter yoga. And so it's great because kids get the opportunity to laugh before they go to bed, as opposed to having a scary story before they go to bed, right? So it's a connection piece for both parents and kids, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea. And so people can find that on Amazon, and then is it also on your website?
It is, yes, definitely. They can find that at BrittneyHillerYoga.com. And if they go to BrittneyHillerYoga.com/love, they will receive a free gift of a guide to meditation ebook.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Brittney. It was a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you, Amanda. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is so fun. I love how you've got me laughing even though we're not doing laughing yoga.
I know. It's great.
So if anyone needs to just like get a smile on their face or wants to have a good laugh, definitely look Brittney up. She is one of the most spunky, giggly people I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. And I'm so grateful that I was able to have her on the show. So definitely go check her out, learn more about her, and perhaps take a laughing yoga class with her at a festival near you. And just before we go, I just wanted to quickly remind you that Julie Zuzak, who was on the podcast last week from the Corporate Yogi and Retreat U, is hosting an awesome webinar on the 5 steps for planning a successful retreat. And that's going to be Thursday, March 23rd at 1 p.m. You're all invited. There's a link in the show notes. It's up on social media, and I will be there, and I'm super excited to see you there as well. And as always, you can find information at www.mbomyoga.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Mastering the Business of Yoga. Thanks so much for listening, and namaste.